Well, hello my friends, and welcome to another brand new episode of the East Lake Animal Education Centre. What have we got going on? Well, we finished the barnyard, so let's have a look at how our other animals are doing. So we've got our reindeer, they're doing really well. Our fallow deer are also doing really well. And we are moving our fallow deer in with our reindeer, because we need this area where the fallow deer are for our brand new construction, our brand new build. So money is minus at the moment, unfortunately. We will get that into a profit again, don't worry. So all I'm going to do is build a new shelter that can accommodate the reindeer and the fallow deer together, and hopefully that turns out, I mean, it does turn out well, to be fair. I don't know why I'm saying hopefully, I know the outcome. It turns out well. In the end it actually ends up holding 3 species, not just 2. Yeah, we need to move a couple of things around, and then we can move the shelter sort of back nearer the path. We're going to go and pop our keeper gate in, link it up with the path, he says. It does link up eventually, better late than never. There you go. Yep, just flattened that area out. It's a nice big shelter. It's 2 herds of ungulates, and a 3rd species is also moved in here eventually as well. But because guests aren't seeing the inside, just put anything in there essentially. Could have left it completely open if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. So I've added these little sections, these sort of like little stalls essentially. Do the same at the other side. And this just gives the animals a bit of privacy from each other if they need it. So I've gone ahead and put 3 water stations in there because there are quite a lot of animals what end up in here. And then we're putting the roof in. Making sure all the settings are correct. There we go. And this makes building the roof so much easier. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're adding the glass barrier to what used to be the armadillo habitat. And it's now going to house our raccoons. We're going to move them across over here. So we move all the enrichment first. We don't use the climbing enrichment from the blueprint. We end up using one of the pre-made ones that come with the game. So there was that. And yeah, just put the enrichment in first, and then the climbing, and then remove some of the planting across and stuff like that. Yep, just stuff like this really, nothing fantastic. It's meant to be sort of quickly thrown together, but it does meet the animal's needs. And if you remember, way back when I first started this series, the idea was that each animal would have 3 habitats. So they'd have their very first habitat, which just meets their needs, and that's that. The second habitat would be a little bit more well planted, a little bit better. and it might be in the permanent location, but the third habitat would be the absolute best habitat that we can possibly build for that animal, and that's the goal, I think, for everything that I do in Eastleigh, is it's going to have 3 iterations, except for what we're planning for now. I can't afford for that to have 3 iterations because it was stressful enough doing 1, let alone 3. So we've got a path in here, and obviously it leaves quite a bit of space. So I do move the path nearer to the boundary fence, which you can just see me doing now on the screen. Still on the grid. And I'm just going to get rid of the other path. But yeah, we want some fencing in, definitely. And we're going for the... I forget the name of the path, but it is a base game path or one of the DLC paths. I think it's the Europe pack, actually. It comes with this path. But you don't have to own the DLC to get the path, I don't believe. So yeah, just popping the path in. Ignore the fact that I've continued the path all the way up to the end, because we're not having it all the way up to the end. So yeah, just moving some of the benches and things now. So you can see we've removed the fallow deer habitat. I'm just marking out the area for what we're going to be building here. So really, with the exception of the barnyard, everything in front of the train tracks isn't particularly themed. Everything behind the first sort of crossings for the train tracks, that's where we get a bit more themed. Like we've got the forest walk and coastal wonders and things like that. And so this is interesting, this. So in order to boost our funds, I've put some more food and drink facilities in. And I specifically built this sort of facility, which has 3 counters in. I specifically built it for this gap, and we don't really keep it in that gap all too long. We end up moving it twice, actually. So yeah, there's not too much point in paying attention to this part, because it's not staying where it is. Don't know why it's taking so long to pick a counter there. So we've got food, we've got drink, and we've got merchandise. I'm just framing it to make it look a little bit sort of reclaimed, made from recycled wood, that sort of look. You know, the woods are all, the planks are all different colours. It looks a little bit hodgepodge and thrown together, and that's definitely the vibe I was going for. So this area we've got in front of us then, this is going to be the site of a building that I'm currently calling the Reptarium. So this building is going to house all the exhibit species, all of them, and it's also going to house sort of like alligators, crocodiles, caiman, the monitors, things like that. But we're going to move the wallabies in to the first of their 2 new habitats. So I moved them into one of the little hexagon habitats, and then I also moved them in with the fallow deer and the reindeer, just because we need the extra space. Yeah, it's an aging population of wallabies. They're not breeding anymore, and we will be getting wallabies again in the East Lake Animal Education Centre, but not until we get round to building the Australia, New Zealand sort of area. So they do go in that end one that used to house Arctic foxes. Before that it was the skunks. And then I'm just putting the framing in for the Reptarium here. So this middle section is going to be where the entrance is. And I've cut a lot out of this episode. And I'm still not happy with it, but I put too much work into this for me to not show it. So that's what we're dealing with. So yeah, just put in. And there we go. So it's going to have 34 exhibit species, 1 butterfly house exhibiting all 5 species of butterflies, and there's going to be 10 habitats with 1 species in each. So we're looking at things like the Nile monitor, the Galapagos tortoise, the Aldabra tortoise, the Asian water monitor, Cuvier's dwarf caiman, the spectacled caiman, the American alligator, the saltwater crocodile, and then I think there's 2 more that I've purposely left out because we will be building habitats for them, just not at the start. It's going to be further down the line, and that will be the Komodo dragon and the gharial. Just because obviously Komodo dragons, with it being an education centre, it's sort of loosely like a city zoo. I wanted something a bit more appropriate. We're not just going to open a building that's immediately got Komodo dragons in, whilst we've only really got, you know, fallow deer and reindeer and wallabies. You know, we need to build up to Komodo dragons. Certainly sort of alligators and monitors and tortoises, they're a good shout. So accessibility was a big thing for me with the entrance of this building, and initially I was just going to have a staircase at the front and then a ramp that went up the side, and I was like, why don't we actually go for a ramp in the middle and then stairs either side? And that's what I've settled on here. I'm trying to hide the curb for this path because I like the railing, I just don't like the curb or the path texture. That's still a work in progress. I've still not sorted that at the point of recording. But yeah, it does turn out, it's not finished yet, but it does turn out to be a really big building. But it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing, it just means that, you know, depending on what we get in the future, we can potentially add some other species to this. If we get another exhibit species in the next DLC, then we can add that. That's absolutely fine. The bat house is going to be separate, and we're not going to have the 3-toed sloth in here. The most common sloth you find in UK zoos is Linnaeus's 2-toed sloth, and 3-toed sloths just in general aren't really a massive feature in captivity around the world. So the brown-throated 3-toed sloth is probably not a good fit, which is why I've not included it in my plans. Just putting a flower bed in here. It's a raised flower bed. It's going to be a little bit more ornate. And now we're building the butterfly house. This causes all sorts of problems. The thing what causes the problem is actually the size of the exhibit box for the butterflies, which is why the roof needs to be so bloody high. Because it looks ridiculous that it's such a high roof, and all we've got is butterflies. But there we go. So what I do is I use the windows here, where it's like opaque on the top row, and then it's fine for the rest of it. And then to still allow light through and some visibility, but not like loads, we actually use some of the netting on the inside, and we just double that essentially. And yeah, I essentially have to undo all the work what I've just done. So we've gone ahead and put the netted windows in, and now I'm just using one of these paths from that path mod that I was talking about earlier. This is just a placeholder for the sort of general route that I want the guests to walk through. And we're going to have 3 butterfly exhibits in here. You can see what I mean. Like, look how obnoxiously large the butterfly habitat thing is. Like, it pokes through the roof. So I have to raise the roof, and then it just looks ridiculous. It's so large. This plan doesn't really work either, so I just go for raising the roof. So we end up with a obnoxiously large glass roof on an obnoxiously large building for teeny tiny little butterflies. However, if we get any more butterfly species further down the line, bit of forward planning from me, because we can add some more. I love this game, I really do, but there's just some things that don't really make a lot of sense. Like, the exhibit boxes are just too big, and in certain other instances, like for the iguanas, I don't think the exhibit boxes are big enough. Just a massive glass cube for iguanas is not something you see very often, not in UK zoos and wildlife parks anyway. So rather than going for a 2-meter panel, I go for 2 1-meter panels. It's just got a nicer sort of texture to it. This glass window looks a bit large at the top. Yeah, you can see there I just stack that on top of each other, and immediately I'm like, oh my god, I prefer that. There you go. So I've put it in, and then we go back and correct the other ones. So here I'm just putting the airlock in. So we don't want our butterflies escaping. And here I'm making the entrance hall, which is a circular building, and it's actually based on a misunderstanding of an image of the Reptarium from a Japanese zoo called Ueno Zoo, I think it is. I'm sure it's Ueno Zoo. Having seen a video of the zoo, 'cause I saw the image and I was like, oh my god, that's like what I want my entrance hall to be like. I watched a walkthrough of the zoo, and it's not somewhere I would advise animal lovers go. It's not the best zoo in terms of welfare, and it's really heartbreaking to see. But the design of the Reptarium, I saw this image, and it was like an open sort of circular foyer, and in the centre was a sort of river diorama that was circular, and it had like running water, and then it was sectioned up, so in each section there was a different animal. So there was like the Japanese giant salamander in one of them. I think there was another type of salamander in another one. I thought, well, that's not something we can do in Planet Zoo, but it's certainly, you know, inspiration for like a centerpiece, which is, I do go ahead and do that. There is a centerpiece in the entrance hall, and in the entrance hall we've got 3 species in there. So you've got your sort of centerpiece smack bang in the middle, then you've got your entrance to the butterfly journey, you've got your entrance to the tropical hall, you've got your entrance to the desert hall, and then there's the Danube-crested newt, the Hermann's tortoise, and the fire salamander. They're all in the entrance hall. The reason for that is Hermann's tortoise didn't really fit anywhere. It wasn't like tropical, it wasn't desert, it wasn't wetland. I could have put the Danube-crested newt and the fire salamander in the wetland hall when we get around to that, but it wasn't something I was overly sold on. So I thought, let's have something in the entrance hall. And I just grouped all the sort of the European exhibit animals and put them in there. But then the desert hall obviously has all the desert species. Your tropical hall has all your tropical species. And then there'll be a wetland hall, which is one of the last things we'll do for the Reptarium, which will be the terrapin, the frog, the bullfrog I think it is, and the alligator, and maybe the crocodile as well actually. Asian water monitor is in the tropical hall. Aldabra tortoise tropical hall, giant Galapagos tortoise tropical hall, Aldabra tortoise tropical hall, Nile monitor desert hall, and let me have a look at my little piece of paper. Yeah, the wetland hall is the American alligator, the saltwater crocodile. But then we'll be adding to the tropical hall with the gharial and the Komodo dragon. So here I'm just making the little circle sort of boundary for the centerpiece, avoiding Z fighting as per usual. And then it just needs lifting up a little bit because it sits a little bit lower than the other pieces. Yeah, and then just lift that middle piece there, like so. So the flooring then, ignore the flooring, we'll change that in the next episode anyway. But what you see in here is a little trick that I think I've maybe seen once or twice before. I can't remember who I've seen it done by, to be honest. But if you use the mud panel pieces, you can actually recolour them to look like sand, because it has the same sort of texture. And that's exactly what we do here, is I put the mud panels in, and then we recolour it to look like sand, like so. And I think that looks really cool. And then this is obviously, we're going to fill this area with water. We're going to have a little centerpiece. There's going to be some statues and maybe some water effects, like trickling water, things like that. Yeah, I really like how it turns out. And we're now working on sort of eyeing up where things are going to go. So this is going to be the butterfly journey. Now all I'm doing is putting the font on. It's not the final positioning, it's not the final colour, it's not the final look. It's just so I know where everything is going to be, essentially. So we've got the butterfly journey, the tropical hall, the desert hall, and then eventually the tropical hall and the desert hall will link up, and then you'll go through the wetland hall, and then you can exit the building like so. Well, not like so, because I can't show you that. But obviously the way Planet Zoo works, people will enter through that as well. So, and yeah, we're just putting the sign up for the desert hall. So this is where we're ending the episode. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate this hasn't been a particularly interesting episode. I'll see you all next time when we continue construction on the entrance hall to the Reptarium. Until then, my friends, stay safe, stay kind, and bye-bye for now.